And unveiling the budget for Britain's pandemic-hit economy, Finance Minister Rishi Sunak predicted a strong recovery into next year, a whopping growth rate of 6.5% despite the skyrocketing inflation. He reaffirmed government's commitment to reduce the state debt that has soared during the pandemic. Sunak announced a host of multi-billion-pound funding projects, long-term economic recovery post the pandemic, reducing the pressure on state-run health services. This remained on top of his agenda. Sunak said that UK could witness a gross domestic output rate of 6.5% in the upcoming financial year.
Thanks to this government's actions, they forecast the economy to return to its pre-COVID level at the turn of the year, earlier than they thought in March. Growth this year is revised up from 4 to 6.5%. The OBR then expect the economy to grow by 6% in 2022 and 2.1%, 1.3% and 1.6% over the next 3 years.
Sunak also projected the underlying debt at 85.2% this year and a fall in the debt as percentage of GDP in the years to come.
Underlying debt is forecast to be 85.2% of GDP this year, then 85.4% of GDP in 22-23, before peaking at 85.7% in 23-24. It then falls in the final 3 years of the forecast from 85.1% to 83.3%. Borrowing as a percentage of GDP is forecast to fall in every single year, from 7.9% this year to 3.3% next, then 2.4%, 1.7%, 1.7% and 1.5% in the following years.
The British Finance Minister addressed the outcry over cutting Britain's foreign aid budget. He vowed to restore the funding in the coming years, where help for poorer countries will be pivotal, addressing fears over global inflation as the economies begin reopening. Sunak said UK's annual inflation rate was forecast to climb to an average of 4.0% next year from 3.1% currently. Price rises will be majorly fueled by soaring energy costs and supply constraints.
In September was 3.1% and is likely to rise further, with the OBR expecting CPI to average 4% over the next year. The majority of this rise in inflation can be explained by two global forces. First, as economies around the world reopen, demand for goods has increased more quickly than supply chains can meet.
Apart from this, the Chancellor had also made a slew of announcements before tabling the budget. Policies already unveiled from the Chancellor's budget include expenditure on transport projects, extra funding for the National Health Service, a rise in national living wage. Other measures announced already include spending to encourage foreign investments into the UK, funding on new post-Brexit border and immigration systems, and a 6-month extension to the COVID recovery scheme to June 2022. The UK government has already revealed plans to raise minimum wage rates and end a freeze on pay rises for public sector employees. Meanwhile, the risk of rise in unemployment is at an all-time high in Britain. The government returned to its pre-pandemic spending levels on welfare schemes, which rocketed the borrowing to around $442 billion in the financial year till March this year. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.